Hello, my name is Dr. Joe Sagues. I'm an associate professor in biological and agricultural engineering. And today I'll be talking with an alumni named Rosie Maloney. So, Rosie earned her Bachelor's of Science degree in biological engineering here at NC State with a concentration in bioprocessing. And she had two minors. One minor was in biomanufacturing through BTech and another minor was French. And she graduated in spring of 2024. And I know Rosie through a few different channels. One was coursework. She took a couple of my courses. I also advised her senior design team, and she assisted in my lab as an undergraduate research assistant. So, had many different experiences with Rosie, and I'm really happy that she's here to speak with me. So, Rosie, I'm going to start off with the first question, which is, how did you end up in biological and agricultural engineering at NC State University? And then what were you thinking about doing before you chose this particular path?
That's a really funny question, actually, because when I went to NC State, I was really interested in veterinary medicine. I'd always loved animals and cats and wanted to do something with that. But I was like, everyone does animal science, and I wanted something a little bit different to set myself apart from in that field. So I was like, why don't I do like engineering? Because you can do anything with engineering. Like you can go, you can be a lawyer, you can be a veterinarian, you could be an engineer, of course. So I looked up the engineering prerequisites, and the one that overlapped the most with vet school prerequisites was actually biological engineering. And then I got here and I met everybody and I took the classes and I was like, this is so fun. I want to stay here. So I ended up staying in biological engineering as my career instead of switching over to veterinary stuff.
Yeah, I love that story, and I think it's important to just like take a moment and reflect on how like everyone's path is windy, right? Not everyone, but most people don't end up doing exactly what they thought they would do when they started their college, undergraduate, or even graduate degree. So I appreciate that. Okay, moving on to the next question. Looking back, what experiences or skills from bio and ag engineering have been most valuable in your career?
That's also a good one. I think I'd really say all the hands-on experiences. Like I know, for example, I took a class with Dr. Sagas, um, and that was like we got to use a bunch of hands-on lab equipment, whether it was HPLC or just just seeing how they work, even if you don't get a bunch of competence using the exact thing. Just being exposed to all that stuff and seeing how it works basically, so that when you see it in the workplace, you're like, oh, I know generally how that works. Even if you're not like a super competent user yet, you have some experience with that. Or like one of Dr. Kollar's classes, we did like a psychrometric chart, and then we ended up using that in my current position for like looking at spray drying and how the gases would expand and contract with different temperatures and things. And it was just nice to have already been exposed to that and then see it applied in a real position to something.
Yeah, no, that's great, and I totally agree. Yeah, hands-on experiences are definitely something that we pride ourselves with at NBAE. Okay. All right. And so you already alluded to your current role a little bit, but if you could expand and sort of tell us, what you're doing, what your title is, what company you work for, and then also kind of like what a typical day looks like.
Sure. Yeah, I'm currently a research associate at Novonesis, and they're like a microbe and enzyme manufacturing company. So my role is in their microbial pilot plant in Salem, Virginia. And so on this team, we work mostly to like scale up processes from like a lab scale to then pilot and then to production, because there's also a production site here in Salem. I mean, my day-to-day work is actually really different every day, which is kind of really fun. That's part of what I like about this position. I guess in a typical week, I'm on the downstream team, so we work on like concentrating and spray drying after the microbes have already been fermented and grown up. So I'll like run the spray dryer, run the concentrator, that kind of thing. Usually later in the week, because we'll kind of do like a week of like growing at the beginning and then spray drying and concentrating at the end. Um, and then there's also, of course, like plating, to make sure we actually grew microbes that are still alive, because that's here we make microbes as the actual product. And so it'll be plating, pouring plates, ordering things for that, going and doing the, spreadsheets about how many things you grew and what your yields were and everything. So really a lot of variety. And then sometimes just like trying different formulations or completing like sample requests for customers or other parts of the company and things. So there's really a lot of variety, which is fun.
Yeah, yeah, that's really great. Thank you for that. Novonesis is one of the, if not the global leader, I would say, in enzyme production and industrial fermentation, microbe development. So it's exciting to see you play the role that you're playing there. And I just to go a bit further, I think it's really neat and noteworthy that your position is formally defined as research associate, but there's still quite a bit of engineering involved, of course, right? But the reason I think you have the title of research associate instead of engineering associate or process engineer is you're kind of trialing new things, which is why you work at a pilot plant. Um,
Yeah,
and like generally, that's kind of like what engineers with graduate degrees would do, but I think it's really cool that you have your bachelor's degree and you're working in like more of the research side, but still very applied engineering. So yeah, I just wanted to hit on that.
yeah.
Okay, coming to the last question, my favorite. What is your best memory of your time in bio and ag engineering?
That's a tough one. There's so many good things. I guess, any of the time I was spending time with my friends, I, could hang out. I did a lot of like extracurriculars within BAE, so I made a lot of friends in the department. I think specifically, there was one time that we had like an Alpha Epsilon, which is the honor society for BAE, like leadership meeting. And I'd also scheduled like a rock climbing competition at the same time by accident. So I did like the leadership meeting and then I ran over to the rock climbing and like ran back. And it was really fun to fit all the things in the same day. Or like another thing was like I helped plan the career fair through the ASAB, which was like kind of hectic, but also just like a really cool experience to work with your friends and get that going and then see it come to fruition. When we had that planned and day of and everything. So lots of good things in BAE.
Yeah, yeah, that sounds like the definition of multitasking. And the career fair is always really impressive. So, okay, Rosie, thank you so much for your time. I think this video is going to be very helpful for prospective students.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks so much for having me.